by military power. The old saying, God is on the side of the army with the largest artillery and most ammunition, right? So again, whoever controls the power really is going to be it at the end of the day. And right now, even if they convert over, it's still like the yuan is such a small percentage, and it can grow as far as adoption across the world. But none of those countries trust China either. They know that they're kind of like two-faced and they have ulterior motives. Same thing with Russia. And most of these communist countries are very two-faced. They don't have a equal-based society. I mean, you have the oligarchs and you got all the people eating the caviar and eating the nice sushi and all that. And then you got the peasant class waiting in line to get some cheese and bread, like, and rice, one bowl of rice. So that's just a facade, right? So you're going to see that. Now, I have a lot of friends in China and in Taiwan as well. And I'm like, you guys, my friends in Taiwan, are you worried about China killing you guys, blowing you guys up, invading you? They're like, not like majorly, because we have manufacturing facilities in China and here, and it's kind of all tied in together. A lot of them have said that, right? And these are friends of mine that own factories. And I go, you think China's going to blow up America? They're like, I don't know. You think Walmart would set up a bunch of snipers and shoot their customers in the parking lot? Like, you think that's a smart business move? So at the end of the day, they need America to be around to buy the goods.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Journey to Win. I'm here with my good friend, Dan Young. I'm so excited to have him on the podcast today. If you don't know Dan, you need to. Dan is an entrepreneur. He's the founder of the Ugly Unicorn Crypto Hedge Fund. He's a mentor. He's an all-around great guy, a real estate developer. He's been on the Inc. 500 list multiple times, as well as being on the AMD Gaming Advisory Council and Intel Board of Advisors for 16 years. He's been involved with crypto since 2014, and he literally built the largest Bitcoin mining facility in Utah. He's done over $600 million in deals, which have included PC Lab Talk. He's the owner of Zyadax Computers, and just done many insane projects. So I'm excited to pick your brain today, and welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
Doing, man?
Excited to help. Good, man.
Good, man. Nice to see you again. Hey, so tell me, we start off this podcast with one question, and I always like to ask this question first, is what is winning to Dan Young?
That changes through the years, right? When I was younger, winning had a completely different definition with that. Hey, Brandon, your video is kind of getting a little choppy. Should we keep rock and rolling? You good?
Yeah, you're good. It'll be fine on the podcast. Yeah, you're good to go.
Awesome. All right, let's go. All right, so to answer that question, it changes through the years. When you're younger, I'd say like in my teens and 20s, it was about having fun, right? It was like going on dates with, great girls and having fun and hanging out with your bros and, doing all those kind of things. And then in my 30s, my definition of success changed more into like financial, stuff like that, right? In the 40s, it's kind of interesting because then you're kind of hitting midlife, and you start thinking, well, maybe it's about passing things on more to my children, to friends, family, students, employees, acquaintances. So, because you realize your time is limited, right? And then now I'm 51. So it's more than halfway there with the average American lifespan. Hopefully it goes longer. But then really you start shifting into what's important. And so now it's kind of weird, just within the last year or so, turning a little over 50, is like the material drive for like mansions, airplanes, sports cars, all those things that I've acquired, I really don't care about now. I mean, there's like it seriously doesn't even raise my pulse rate to get those things. But what it really means a lot is to help, to really be of help. Because I think the only way we can be immortal on this planet, I mean, obviously, I think our energy can go back and we can go to heaven or wherever we're going to go, hopefully, if we've done what we need to do. But in this world, we can have eternity if we teach. And that gets passed on to future generations. So we can have some eternity. So that's my big focus right now. Kind of shifted, really weird.
Man, I love it, and I can attest. Like, I remember I came out here, I met you one time at Cody Sperber's real estate Clever Investor event he had out in Las Vegas. And I got your number. I came out to Salt Lake City and I said, hey man, you want to get some lunch? And you did. Like, you're a mentor who literally just wants to give back. and, you've grown to levels that the majority of society is never going to get to. I mean, and that's just the truth. That's the hard truth. However, but you don't act like it. You're not, like, you're such a humble guy. That's one thing I've really appreciated about you, is like how humble you really are, but also you stick behind it, and the fact that you're willing to get out there and actually give back at a higher level. So first off, I'm thankful, man. And, I shot you a text message yesterday, said, hey, can we do a podcast? And you're like, let's do it. And then we did it literally the next day.
Get it done, man. We got limited time on this planet. So procrastination is something that just we can't do,
That's awesome, man. So let me ask you this. So how did you get started? Because let's go backwards. Like, tell me about your childhood, man. And like, how did you end up growing into entrepreneurship? Was it something that you were born into? Was it something that you just found and you got excited about? Like, how did you get started on your entrepreneurship journey?
It's kind of interesting because my grandparents were entrepreneurs in China before the communists invaded and all this stuff, right? And they actually had a business. My uncle had a Coca-Cola franchise in China, one of the first ones. They were one of the first 3 families in China to have a car made in the United States. Good relations before the invasions, right? And then suddenly there was war and everything was taken from them. They were put in prison camps. People killed in the streets. And so my parents came to America, right? They helped some American soldiers, and these soldiers helped get them here. And so my dad got a job at General Motors being a janitor, and my mom was like cleaning houses and got a job as a bank teller, And so I just saw hard work. And it was kind of interesting is from a very good life they had to zero, and then to restart in America, like, and not even speaking English that well, and they learned what they could from soldiers, right? But, broken English. And then, I saw this. We were really poor as kids. We had food stamps and all this kind of stuff. And it was just hard, but they were working really hard to try to get better. And then my dad put himself through art school, started doing a little better, and started his own little art business, right? And he started making decent money, which was nice. Did so well, he finally got promoted to like head of marketing for Mattel Corporation, which was kind of cool. Designed, the Barbie doll campaign, the Barbie dolls back in the day. And so I was like really inspired, by that. Like, wow, this guy could do that, so maybe I could do something. So I wanted to be entrepreneurial. So what I did is I sold sunglasses at the beach. Those Ray-Ban looking type of Tom Cruise glasses. So we would sell those at the beach, and we go up to people and be like, hey, man, it's real bright out there. I need some sunglasses. And they were like knockoff ones, right? So good profit. And I got pretty good at it. And it was so cool. You could hang out there with your friends, with your girlfriends. You could have a few drinks. You weren't supposed to be drinking back then in high school, but we would chill out at the beach, get a suntan, and sell sunglasses. And one day I was with my business partner, Dennis, out there, and I'm like, dude, how much we make today? And he's like, $2,000, bro. Like, we had $2,000 in one day selling sunglasses. I'm like, man, that's a hustle, right? So we were just, not every day was $2,000, but some days were a couple $100, right? But at least a couple $100 a day at, being a kid. And so I realized, like, there's a problem and you can solve it. You can do it the right way and do good. Okay, so then things went sideways. I started extra partying hard, doing really dumb things to party, and got in trouble. Went to juvenile hall for a little bit. Really dumb. Just let the money get to my head. So then I had no money. And then I got shipped to Utah to live with my sister. She was an academic advisor at the university. And then she let me stay at her place. I was 16 years old. I lived there at her place for like 30 days and then had to get out. So I got a job in the mall at Radio Shack selling electronics, and then also selling at the swap meet at weekends, sunglasses and T-shirts and brass knuckles and weird stuff. And I did equally successful there. But then that's the catalyst is I met my mentor in the mall. So this old guy comes in, he has this broken radio, and he's like, hey, can you fix this ham radio? I'm like, I want to hear the news around the world because the media is like corrupt, man. I want to hear what it's really like. I'm like, all right. So I fixed his radio. He's like, dude, you're amazing, dude. Do you need a mentor? I'm like, okay. He's like, well, let's grab some Chinese food. You like Chinese food, bro? I'm like, yeah, dude. So we go grab Chinese food in the food court, and I go, what'd you do? He goes, oh, I sold my company for over $1 billion. Now I'm just messing around with my radio. but if you want, I'll show you what I did it, and you could do it too. And so within a few years, I made my first $1 million. So now it's through real estate and also starting my computer company, stocks as well, and just a wide array of things that he was just teaching me that he did. And it wasn't all that hard because I just did what he told me to do, and I had nothing to lose, right? And that's how it became to be.
Man, that's pretty cool. I think a principle out of that is sometimes the worst things that happen to you are actually become the best things that happen for you. Like you don't know it at the time, like you're going through juvie and like you're struggling, you're like, this sucks. And then all of a sudden you go to Utah and you're in California, bro. You're like, California is amazing. And Utah is great too, but completely different weather. And then I'm sure you could have been in your head if you didn't have a growth mindset and you had a fixed mindset, you could have been in your head playing victim, but you didn't. You were a victor. And you made the best out of it, man. You went and got a job and started making things happen. And then life gave you an opportunity. You were open-minded. The mind's like a parachute and works if it's open. And you were open-minded to a mentor and listening to them or him. So that's an awesome story, man. I love that.
And the great thing about being broke is you really got nothing to lose, So, and being young and broke, you got a lot of time, like take some risks, And
Yeah.
if you find the right mentors, now with social media and the internet, you can screen people pretty well. Back then, luckily, this guy was not psychotic or something, and he was just a nice old guy, man. I try to be that nice old guy nowadays, So, help people out.
That's actually one thing you told me is you said you had somebody that gave back to you. And so you want to give back to other people. And so that's really cool. I got to ask you though, you said screen people on social media. I call it fake book. You got social media, all these influencers out there who are balling. And, like Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. The tide is going out right now. We've been in a recession, but we're moving even deeper into a recession. Potential talks of literally like World War III with China. So how do the listeners on this call find a good mentor on social media that they could trust? What are some of the screening mechanisms to kind of see through some of that BS?
First of all, no matter how great someone looks, they're always vulnerable because they're men or women, Steve Jobs was one payroll away from bankruptcy. He had to borrow like $120 million from Bill Gates so he didn't bankrupt Apple. Elon Musk was a payroll away from bankrupting Tesla. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I've been in such crazy financial situations where we're talking dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars. But if something went sideways, I could have been living on the street. Things can come, things can go. Just like your life can leave your body in 1 second, it's like, you just don't know when, so you got to do your best while you're here. Okay. I just wanted to define that first of all, because nobody, how great you think they are, is immortal. We're all equal, when it comes to our value of existence. It's very important to realize that. Okay. Now to how to find a good mentor. So first thing you want to look at as track record. Okay. Everyone can talk the talk, but how long have they been winning? What losses have they had? How do they make it through it? And where are they today? And so usually good men and women leave beautiful things in their wake, right? They created beautiful things. Nothing lasts forever, but they have created wonderful things, right? And so like Elon's creating like cool cars and spaceships and things like that. But when he's gone, at least he contributed some things that maybe made the planet better, right? And so what you want to look at is track record. If you look at their name, and you should definitely look them up on LinkedIn. It's harder to fake stuff on LinkedIn. And make sure they have good testimonials and stuff like that, written by other people through time. And you can also look to see if they've had a mass amount of lawsuits, whether they've sued a lot of people or if a lot of people have sued them. Has the government and tons of agencies went after them for doing bad, defrauding things to people? Or have they just been, building pretty good stuff through time? Now, everybody gets in some sort of legal trouble or tax trouble. Sometime in their lifetime, there's a learning opportunity because they forgot to dot an I, cross a T. That happens, right? People do bad things in life and they get better. So I'm all about second chances. But if someone is continuously doing havoc-y, scammy, Ponzi scheme stuff, and they're hurting a lot of people and not doing what they say, then be wary. Good people leave beautiful things. Bad people leave dead bodies in their wake. I mean, it's that simple. And people usually don't change all that much through time. As they get older, they usually don't change all that much when it comes to their integrity level. The one exception I would say is when they're a young man or woman, maybe teens, early 20s maybe, and just like trying to figure out who they are, and they're trying to sow their oats or whatever they're doing stupid, I get that, and that happens with young people. But as a grown adult, when their neurons are pretty darn connected, shouldn't be doing things that are bad. And the big thing you want to look for is integrity. What is the Warren Buffett saying? Integrity, energy, intelligence. So if they've got those three things and they can consistently execute on that, it's probably worth spending some time with them.
Yeah, I love that. Obviously, yeah. I mean, I've changed quite a bit throughout my career. Even, I mean, I was a young knucklehead in the military, running around doing crazy stuff, and got married, and that was another growth level. And then got into business, and that was another growth level. It wasn't really till I started getting very emotionally mature on a different level, on a whole new level, it was when I got into the entrepreneurship world, because you kind of have to be, right. Like, you can't talk to people a certain way. You have to be a person of, that people want to be around, right? You have to know how to communicate effectively, just all that stuff, especially I'm in the direct sales game, right? So I got to know how to, I got to know how to be able to move people to action, and people don't want to do that if you're being a boss and trying to push them to do stuff. You got to inspire them to move. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. So tell me, I know that you've been through, obviously some ups and downs in your business. I mean, you're the owner of Zydex Computers. You got a hedge fund. Like, you've done a lot. What are some of the challenges that you've had in those businesses, and how did you overcome them?
Well, with computers, we've had cycles through the years and different technology breakthroughs. When we first started selling computers in the early 90s, a lot of people thought the internet was a fad. Kind of like you hear people saying that blockchain or cryptocurrency is a fad right now. Same hate I was getting about the internet back in 92. They're like, Dan, like, no one's going to be in there a long time. It's just a fad, bro. Okay, man, but we stuck through it, and the internet has become a thing, right? And that's the same thing with a cryptocurrency. Is interesting. I've been doing it since 2014. We launched our hedge fund, though, finally, because I was helping a lot of billionaires and millionaires, and with understanding crypto, so they could make investments on their own. And then finally, my friend John Pennington, he just sold out of his company and retired. Their old fund, though, is crazy. Their real estate fund's $42 billion fund. It's big. And he asked me about crypto, and it was a lot cheaper. And I'm like, dude, you just buy some. So he bought a lot, and he did really well. And I'm like, it's not that complex, because really it's an emerging market. It's like the internet in the early 90s, right? It's like, it's gonna, it's like, when is it gonna? So you saw, though, some of my social media, and I was like, this is when Bitcoin crashed down to like 15 grand from 60, remember? Around there, 15.5.
Yep.
And Ethereum down to like 900, 875. And I was like, guys, you're sitting in the sale. Just so you know, I'm not saying you should buy it, but you are sitting in the sale. So consider talking to some professionals and either deploying on yourself or with somebody once you've done your research. But do what you want to do. And fast forward, it's been like 7 months. It's up 100%, more than 100%. And it's like, and people go, what do you think about today? You're still sitting in the sale. In fact, the recession is just starting. You're sitting in the sale. So you can't catch the bottoms of stocks, and you can't catch the bottoms of crypto. You do know mathematical charting and lines and trends of what typically happens, but I'd say the most important thing is laying consistent fire on your target. Like, if you are a Bitcoin enthusiast or if a real estate enthusiast, you want to continuously try to accumulate a little bit that doesn't stress you out at a regular cadence, right? And that's simply laying fire on your target. And after a while, you're going to be hitting it, and people are going to be like, you're so lucky, man. I can't believe how lucky you are. And it's like, no, you just kept aiming and you kept pulling trigger. And once in a while, wow, you got lucky, you got a bullseye, That's okay. It's not that hard, but you got to be able to play the long game and be patient if you want to get those results with any of this stuff. So losses, yep, seen that. The crypto market, since we launched the fund last June, I think Bitcoin's at a certain point dropped 60-70%. And we were still up in our fund like 3.5%, something like that, when everyone was down 70%. And now that has gone up, way up. We've gone up too. So it's not like we're magical. It's just we're methodical. So that's the secret to anything, you know?
Yeah, I think, guys, everybody listen, this is not financial advice. Dan's not giving you advice. It's sad we even got to say that. In a world of, victimhood, it's like, guys, you are grown women and men, and you should know how to take your money and invest your money. And if you don't listen to any hype, don't listen to anybody just because they have a little bit of influence or because they sound good. You need to go out and make sound judgments of what you believe in, right? Like, don't invest into something that's just speculative. And maybe, Dan, maybe this is a good time for you to help educate them on not what they should do, but how you invest into things. So like, I know I listen to some of your lives and you talk about why you're investing into certain stocks because you believe in the fundamentals of the company, and you go into why you're investing into certain crypto currencies, right? So like, maybe help educate us on that.
All right. So when I do research into anything, I look for functional utility. So what does that mean? So if I was looking into companies, again, this is not financial advice saying you should buy these companies, but let's say I was looking at companies. Let's say I was looking into Amazon, for example, right? I'm like, okay, they sell a lot of stuff on the internet. Okay, I get it. Are they going to be selling more stuff on the internet? Probably. People are like, they have a habit of using Amazon. Now, can they be better? Yeah, they could probably have these little drones deliver stuff so they can do 15-minute delivery instead of one day or same day, right? With a truck. Okay. Now they can do a lot of same day delivery even without drones because they could just have their own fleets and local warehousing of inventory. Okay, I get it. What else does Amazon do? So you Google it and you're like, well, Amazon, they own more data center to store internet data than almost anybody. It's called Amazon Web Services. Oh, better dig into that thing. That's pretty amazing. They own these big real estate plots for warehousing and things and distribution. They're probably going to put UPS and FedEx out of business for delivery, right? They got that. Every product now that you buy at Whole Foods, they have a 365 brand product, or they have an Amazon Basics type of product of theirs. So basically, they're going to be selling every product, and they're going to be manufacturing every product, or at least outsourcing to get it under their brand label, kind of like Costco does with Kirkland brand, right? So Amazon, will they be around in 10 years and be bigger? Well, probably, maybe. Now, if you decide that with any company, then, and you believe that they will continue to grow and be profitable in the future, that would probably urge you to say, hey, maybe that's a company I would consider owning, or maybe not. But, if the math makes sense. Now, if it's all hype, if they're losing tons of money, right? And it's just like a widget, right? And it's losing tons of money and anybody can copy it. And it's easy to replicate. And, let's say you invented, I don't know, a pillow and it's made out of cotton and it's white pillow, right? But you can make a gray, shiny silver pillow where unless it's like got miraculous properties like making you younger or aligning your chakras or something like that, it's probably going to be replicated out of China, and you're not going to sell too many because there'll be a million copies out there, right? So that's what you want to look at. So with real estate, it's a little bit easier because it's mathematically driven off of how much expenses you have, how much rent you're collecting, tax implications, people moving to that area, those kind of things. Finance rates, interest rates. There's things that can affect that. And you can apply that same formula to that. So this applies to anything. And cryptocurrency, interesting enough, crypto could go to zero, by the way. Bitcoin could go to zero, right? America, the dollar could go to zero, could, right? We don't know. But if you believe in America, profitable American companies that are traded on the stock market have a good chance of surviving. Warren Buffett says that, right? Like, I've bet on America for a while, right? And blockchain technology, I mean, if you believe that that technology is going to be in demand internationally, then it probably would have a compelling future as well. So, you see what I'm saying? It's like supply and demand. It's like, do people, are they still want it? Are they going to want it later? You know?
Yeah, and I'll just say a lot of people don't even know what blockchain really is. They say you say blockchain, and the majority of they don't really know what tokenization is either. You say blockchain, and they'll say, "Was that crypto?" No, crypto's on the blockchain. Blockchain is so much bigger than crypto. It's like eventually everything is going to be on the blockchain because it's open, it's transparent, it reduces friction, it speeds up the process, it costs less, right? Like it's a legal transaction that's open. I mean, it's the future.
It is. And all the countries will be adopting it with their own private central bank digital dollar, of course. But I think there's a lot of room in, public blockchain too. So when tides rise, all ships rise, typically, right? Unless there's massive government restrictions. But just like you have the American dollar right now in greenbacks, right? You have it in the bank, which is really not in the bank. It's a digital ledger. Just a lot of people don't realize what the bank is, a digital ledger, right? But all that's really backed by debt, right? And debt in the U.S. dollar is backed by military, Navy, Space Force, nukes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like a lot of, I know going down the rabbit hole, people are like, do you think like, China's going to like really screw us up by like having all the other countries adopt the yuan and the ruble for the Russians and all that? I'm like, look, America is fairly self-sustaining, and we have and you're in the Navy, so we have a very large fleet, and China imports about 80% of its needs and resources, right? It's not too hard to put a little blockade and stop a country from importing goods and see a country die from attrition that needs 80% of their stuff from imports, right? It's not hard to do that. It's not hard to
but
do that.
My question to you though would be, I don't think China's here to play the short game either. Like, they're going to play the long game. I mean, looking at BRICS and what they're doing, they're going around and trying to get everybody to be on their side so that they're not dictated by the U.S. dollar, so that they can't be blockaded if they don't agree with something that the U.S. wants them to do, the superpower, right? So like, what if 10 years, 20 years down the road, do you think that could eventually be the case where the U.S. dollar, like Ray Dalio talks in his, New World Order, I think is what the book is called. Have you seen that? The New World Order?
Good book. Yeah, I read that book.
What's your opinion on all this? I'm very curious.
Well, the dollar is only backed again by military power. The old saying, God is on the side of the army with the largest artillery and most ammunition, right? So again, whoever controls the power really is going to be it at the end of the day. And right now, even if they convert over, it's still like the yuan is such a small percentage, and it can grow as far as adoption across the world. But none of those countries trust China either. They know that they're kind of like two-faced and they have ulterior motives. Same thing with Russia, and most of these communist countries are very two-faced. They don't have a equal-based society. I mean, you have the oligarchs and you got all the people eating the caviar and eating the nice sushi and all that. And then you got the peasant class waiting in line to get some cheese and bread, and rice, one bowl of rice. So that's just a facade, right? So you're going to see that. Now, I have a lot of friends in China and in Taiwan as well. And I'm like, my friends in Taiwan, are you worried about China killing you guys, blowing you guys up, baiting it? They're like, not like majorly, because we have manufacturing facilities in China and here, and it's kind of all tied in together. A lot of them have said that, right? And these are friends of mine that own factories. And I go, you think China is going to blow up America? They're like, I don't know. You think Walmart would set up a bunch of snipers and shoot their customers in the parking lot? Like, you think that's a smart business move? So at the end of the day, they need America to be around to buy the goods, right? We are the largest consumer of all goods manufactured in China, right? And Taiwan, right? So they need us for that. So again, I think there'll be a shift of power, obviously, and the dollar and inflation and all those things will be a factor. But just simply Google value of the U.S. dollar versus the yuan or the ruble or anything like that, or the euro. Dollar's kicking ass. Dollar power. The Feds know what they're doing. A lot of people, the Feds are dumb. The Feds are dumb. Not as dumb as you think. And people think about partisan left and the right and all that. There's a lot of collaboration, I think, when it comes to the actual dollar value. That's something that breaks party lines, look, we must keep this dollar a viable thing. That's why whenever they print more and more, it's almost like an infinite printer. As long as we have weapons to back the dollar, it'll be probably overall the strongest currency in the world, But that's why right now Venezuela has way more oil than Saudi Arabia. That's why we're opening it up to them. I don't know if you know, but there's 5 companies that are major American oil companies now that the government, I read about this, you've got to verify this yourself, of course, have opened up to pull sanctions out of Venezuela to do oil importing and also drilling in Venezuela. The big 5 American-owned companies. So now that the Saudis aren't playing, because now they're playing with the Chinese, we're not going to sell them jets anymore, F-35s or F-20 Raptor, whatever they are, the super jets, right? We're not going to sell them all these weapons now. But Venezuela will become our buddy, and I would bet you we start selling them weapons. And so we have a new ally, which is actually better than Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
You think Venezuela now will become, you think it'll become a thriving country now?
As long as their leader there does what we need him to do within our control lines, but that's all price. Any leader will comply for a certain dollar amount for his people and power for himself, right? But then again, that's what America's great at, is propping up leaders. And you remember the last couple guys who tried to trade outside of the U.S. dollar, Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi, they magically left this planet, right? So, I think the Feds.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think it was, I can't remember, 2011. I was in Germany. We were deployed out there, and we were supposed to go do a PSD element for Hillary Clinton to go out and talk to Gaddafi. And last minute ended up getting canceled. But very interesting. We literally got all spun up getting ready to go out there. So funny.
Weird.
Funny around that. Yeah.
Weird one, huh?
So let's talk about real quick, AI, cybersecurity, the future of really a lot of the growth that's going to be happening, data, right? NVIDIA, Taiwan, semiconductors. So what would you be looking at if you're the everyday person who's just looking to maybe dollar cost average into some of these companies? What are you looking at specifically?
I won't tell you what to buy, but I'll tell you what makes up the infrastructure, and then you can Google, talk to a financial professional, and make a decision. So, a couple things. The U.S. has banned the export of very high-end AI and graphic GPU processors to China. They make a very high-end graphic processing chip, which is also a chip to process AI at 10 to 100 times the velocity, sometimes 1,000 times of some other chips. It's crazy, right? You can't send them to China anymore. Done. President said, nope. Congress, nope, no more. Then Congress said, and a company named NVIDIA, NVIDA, NVIDIA, you can Google it, but they make those chips that are now banned to export. This company, NVIDIA, happens to make chips that were used they're very popular for cryptocurrency mining, right? These GPUs were called the 3070, 3080, 3090. Now they have the 4080, 4090. They got a different series of video cards, but those are plentiful and available in the U.S. But they process a lot of blockchain transactions. It's kind of interesting. AI is powered. Their data centers. NVIDIA is one of the companies that make all the racks that power. You should look for NVIDIA CEO demonstrating, I think it's A100 or A1000 AI processor rack. He's funny. He has one in his kitchen, and his name's Jensen, and he's just having fun with it. But that's what powers AI. Interesting. Now, the data is stored somewhere for AI, right? The data is stored somewhere for all this. Well, that would be 2 places that are big. Amazon Web Services. Let me talk about Amazon. And also Microsoft Azure. A lot of people haven't heard of Azure, but Microsoft owns the other half of data center. So it's Amazon and Microsoft that own all the AI data processing centers, or a lot of them, right? Now, here's something that's going to blow your mind. The government just gave $53 billion to build out chip manufacturing facilities, U.S. only. Intel, I'm really good friends with the guys and girls at Intel. Got awarded a big chunk of that. You can Google what those numbers are. And Intel makes chips that go in computers. Intel released on the DL a chip called Blockscale. Blockscale is what's called an ASIC, which means the chip's primary role is to process crypto transactions. They just gave $53 billion to make chips in America. 90 days ago or so, the government said, hey, we like this idea. Let's throw another $280 billion into this. American chip manufacturer. And even the president has said in a different way, some people would interpret it differently, but a lot of people's interpretation is if China took over TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing China, we would simply just blow up those factories there, right? However, ships, rockets, missiles, we just blow it up in Taiwan. Boom. And then there would be zero manufacture there suddenly for those. But if we just put in almost like $500 billion here in fab, we're a lot bigger than Taiwan, right? And we got a lot of land and we can harden stuff. And the chances of like on American soil getting those factories blown up are hard, right? A lot harder than Taiwan, right? So I think the government knows what they're doing when it comes to that. Now, if you want to find out, okay, well, what other chips are being made? You can Google what chips are being given for the CHIPS Act. What other chips are the government supporting? You can also Google what stocks in AI or blockchain are members of our government buying. There's like 10 websites that list. They have to publicly list what members of Congress and other government officials are buying. Now, if they sit on these boards to approve this money, they sit on boards to approve military action, right? Well, then, if they're buying, you may want to think about buying what they're buying because they're making the laws of what is going to happen in the future. That's why there's a joke about Nancy Pelosi. They're like, just copy her trades and you'll be rich. I don't know about that exact things, but from what I've heard, if you did mirror her trades, you'd probably do better than a lot of other traders, right? So, but really, I believe, though, that, this is America. We are all capitalists. So whether someone's a Republican or Democrat or whatever it is, at the end of the day, most of the leaders that are elected are capitalists, and they're fairly smart when it comes to money, right? At least on that end of it, right? They can agree on the money. They're pretty smart, right? Making themselves money, right? And passing laws to get votes so that they stay in office so they can be in the know of where the money is going, right? That's why. You look at any smart politician, when they go into government positions, usually they leave much richer, right? Than when they got in there. Way more than the salary, right? Not necessarily a bad career. Brandon, have you considered a career in politics? Secretary of Defense?
Not even close, bro. I would never survive that game. Oh, dude, no way. What's funny is there's a guy. Have you heard of this guy? So he created a website. It's called Quiver Quant or something. It's Quiver Quantitative, but it's quiverquant.com. And he goes over and shows open source what all the Congress is doing. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that's a great site. Yeah. Don't take it for what it is. Don't just go to that, but there's some good data. There's a few other sites too that, give you this data. But that's why I say you got to do your own research and look. I would never invest any money that you're not willing to lose, into anything. So you got to be prepared for that. So if you're investing so much that you're having anxiety, then you're probably putting too much money into something, and the larger the returns, probably the more risk, with that. Sometimes, unless you put money in some of these banks lately, not so safe, right?
Yeah, I'll second that, guys. Again, just because we push out a website doesn't mean you believe in everything they're saying, and just saying that there's transparency, I guess, that he's posting some of the stuff that these congressmen and women are out there actively investing into, because they have I think it's a 45-day window that they have to show, 30 or 45 days that they have to show what they're investing into. So take this for a grain of salt, like he's saying, do your own due diligence. But let's talk about that for a second. different people come to me sometimes and say, hey, Brandon, what should I be investing into? And I'm like, I don't know. It depends on what your risk tolerance is. If you're 70 years old, you probably should have a different risk tolerance than if you're 20 or 25 or 30. So you have to identify what your personal risk tolerance is. For me, I like to diversify as much as possible. I like to have cash flow coming in. I like to have an actual asset that's producing cash flow consistently, or multiple different assets that's cash flowing. For you, I know that's real estate, multifamily. You have a lot of commercial real estate, if I'm remembering right. Mm-hmm. So talk about your risk diversification, if you don't mind.
If I could go back in time and talk to my 18-year-old self, I probably would have even gone heavier into real estate. And the reason is real estate, you can't really get, as long as the math pencils out, so you're cash flowing correctly and you're buying it right. Usually if you're 5 years patient, even if there's a market drop, you're doing okay, and the math was right. And the thing about real estate is we get emotional. So let's say you're sitting on a bunch of stock, right? You may get really emotional because you're way up and just dump a lot of it and buy some Lambos or invest in something else, right? Because it's easy to sell in 1 second, right? Same thing with crypto, right? Real estate's a pain to sell. You got to list it, right? You got people check it out, all these offers, they got financing. And so it's not really that liquid to easily sell real estate. So it forces you to not transact. But also with real estate, a lot of people don't realize there's tax deduction implications that you can really be taking advantage of that. Because if you're making a ton of money, let's say in your business, right? A ton of money, a lot of this real estate can offset your taxes so that you're keeping more of that. And then you can invest more of that into real estate, right? So I would say probably more heavy in real estate. And here's how the breakdown goes. Let's take a 25-year-old to 50-year-old person, right? That's got good energy and you feel like you're going to be fine. Usually the breakdown goes 40% conservative stuff, which could be real estate, some liquid cash, right? Some precious metals, some boring stuff, stuff like that. 40% in the middle, which would be more speculative stuff, right? And that would be certain stocks, right? That are kind of a little bit riskier, but not like penny stocks, some garbage. Good companies, right? Some may pay dividends, some may be tech, some may be boring car companies or whatever you're buying. And then 20% could be like a moonshot type of high risk asset, right? And that would be certain types of cryptocurrency, very risky, right? Volatile, and also some private investment. A forewarning on private investment. Most private investments, you'll lose your money. You get a couple buddies, hey dude, we're doing this. Give me some 20 grand, 100 grand. You're probably going to lose it. And that's why, if you're going to get into hedge funds and things like that, make sure it's a real hedge fund. Make sure it's got third-party audit and third-party administration. And so just make sure to have an attorney look at all the docs, and screen your CPA, look at that. Because there's a lot of scams out there. Probably 90% are scams in private investment. Most people lose money with private investment. Now, as you get older, over 50, you can make that moonshot amount smaller if you want. Or maybe you have more money once you're past 60, right? And you want to leave that moonshot at 20% as a moonshot for your kids or grandkids or something. That's great too, But the one thing, though, is this. Remember I said God is on the side of the army with largest artillery, most ammunition? You want to have at least a 6-month buffer. It could be cash even. I know cash sucks because it's melting, right? You can look at different ETFs and mutual funds that are mainly money market boring stuff that pay 4 or 5%, that kind of stuff. That's spread out among many banks, that kind of thing. Some people use that kind of, product, or some people just spread it out among a few banks or whatever, If it's over 250 grand, you lose your FDIC insurance typically, The government only insures to a certain amount, usually. But if you have 6 months buffer, though, then you're not stressed out because sometimes you're forced to sell assets if you completely run out of cash, and that sucks because you may be selling too low and prematurely exiting. So I'd say 6 months of living expenses is great. In a business, if you can have 6 months of operating costs, it's pretty good too, right? But ultimately, I think your best money, if I look at my highest returns overall on average, it's going to be investing in my own business, right? Businesses that I have. that's because you can control a lot of that, you know. So your own business, stocks, some crypto, some real estate, those are all things to consider.
Yeah, it's funny, Dan. When I was in the military, I was almost $40,000 of credit card debt, 18% interest. You know, and I didn't know them. I didn't have a money mindset. I didn't know the money game, knew nothing about it. I was just, just in the military. And so it wasn't until I got started, building a business to where I started saying, okay, I need to grow me. I'm going to be the number one investment that I can make into me. And so like all the money we were making, we were literally like going to seminars to learn, to grow, to develop, to become the version of us that would be able to track the level of success we were looking to, to attract in our lives. And it was very uncomfortable there for a little while when all of our money was going back into different seminars, going back into our business, going back into, different coaches and mentors. And, but I can't believe the return on investment that we've had just by investing into us, so, and then understanding the tax game, being active duty in the military, I didn't know how much I was paying in taxes and how many, and I'm not a CPA, so you guys can't listen to me, but you guys can go Google or talk to your CPAs about this. But the average person who makes, $60,000 a year, they get taxed, $14,000. So their net income is $46,000 a year. Average cost of living, which is going up, is right around $52,000, $53,000 a year. So they're already in the hole. But if they would start, a home-based business or start some sort of business, that same person would make on average about $4,000 to $6,000 per year instead of giving all their money to Uncle Sam legally. That blew my mind. So not only was I able to make more money, grow me, I was able to save money on taxes and put it back into paying down debt. And we paid off all our debt within a year because of that.
Nice, dude.
That's crazy, man. So let me ask you this, because I know we're coming up on the end of time here. So we have all these different things that people should be doing, right? Like investing themselves, creating different buckets to where they can diversify their income, dollar costing average into, each of those buckets, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is that they want to do, right? What is, if, let's just say 5 years, 10 years from today, we were to go to war with China, we were to go to war with Russia, and the dollar was to lose its value. What do you think? And I know you're not a financial advisor and they can't take your opinion on this, but what would you specifically, because we can talk about what you would be doing with your money now to prep for something like that? Like, do you have a secondary location where you have land that you can go out to, that you can, what are you doing with it?
Land doesn't matter because you don't own it anyway, right? You don't own land. You pay property taxes. You don't pay that. It goes back to the government, right? You don't own land. So land is worthless. When people go, buy land. It's stupid, right? Doesn't do anything. Now, for real estate, buying some apartment buildings that has cash flow, smart, right? I'd say, some of the basics, definitely get yourself a nice rifle and a nice pistol, right? You could probably make some recommendations there. And then buy yourself, a couple cases of ammo. That's great. Buy yourself some food storage, stuff like that if crap hits the fan. But I'd say it's really important to invest in your skills. You can buy once in a while if you want some silver coins every month. Those are always cool to buy. Anyway, they're cool to give your kids and stuff. And then, some gold if you want some of that. That's okay. I usually buy an ounce or two a month of just 1 ounce gold. It's great, But on an investment standpoint, if the dollar gets displaced, what happens is it's just you're going to have accelerated inflation. So certain assets will just go up. Example, real estate will simply just go up in proportion to inflation. So real estate hasn't gone up as much as we think it has in the last few years. It's just that the dollar is worth less, right? So, but that's helped insulate against that. Cryptocurrencies and why it's gone up like 100% Bitcoins in the last bit almost is because it's harder for the government to control it to a certain degree. They could end up banning it or regulating it or whatever, but I think at the end of the day, they're not going to go for a total ban, just my opinion, as long as their central bank digital dollar gets deployed and that's the on and off ramp. So let's say you bought Bitcoins and it went up and then you ended up selling some Bitcoins. Well, you take it out in dollars, right? And then go buy food with it, buy a house, real estate. That's all they want is to know and get their tax off your gains. That's fine. So I'd say some crypto is good. Good quality companies, like I said with stocks, they're companies that are going to be producing and creating things that people consume, I think is hypercritical. I wouldn't go into conspiracy theory, bro, mentality. During Y2K, I had so many friends going to conspiracy, bro, like sell everything, buy land, food storage, and water, and all that food right now is they're giving it away because it's rotten, spoiled. Ammo doesn't go bad, so everyone's still happy with their 5.56 they bought back then. Their Lake City, they're happy, right? Cheap back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so cheap. So, the ammo is probably not a bad thing because precious metals are going to go up and ammos are made out of metal, right? So, but I think the most important thing is also to keep your health really good and your mind as well as your finance. So if you can keep all those things good, because the biggest thing that's going to be taxed if it went crazy, like some of these third world countries, the toughest thing you're going to contend with is your psychology. Are you going to give up? Are you just going to lay your hands up? Are you just going to succumb and let your ribs pop out and starve to death? Or are you going to get aggressive? And I tell you, you ever seen Mad Max, man? Mad Max with like Mel Gibson and then the end of the Armageddon and the guns and all that. If things went Armageddon, I believe people like me or you would thrive. We'd be selling all kinds of stuff people need, right? People need protection. People need resources. People need food. People need security. People need gasoline. People need safety. They need shelter. Like, that's all. You just sell that, So it doesn't, you can't be prepared for everything and anything. But some of those things, I think, as far as material things, they'll prepare you. But just get your head right and decide, like, if something happens, I've talked to some people and they're like, well, if it goes really crap like that, I'm just going to give up. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, if it happens, whatever. I'm like, you're not going to be saying that when your kids don't have food in their bellies, What are you going to do then? It's like,
what a sad,
you better,
what a sad thing to say, man.
You got to be ready, And when your kids are starving, good men and women will do very bad things. You see your kids' ribs popping out, trying to get food, what are you going to do? Whatever it takes, right? I mean, that's what happens, man. So abundance usually creates harmony, but lack creates chaos, when people just are trying to survive. So just prepare yourself mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, all that. Have some resources and be ready for it. If it happens, embrace it. It's an opportunity, So life's like that.
Absolutely. So work on themselves more than anything. I agree. Jim Rohn used to say, work twice as hard on yourself as you do your job. And that always worked out really well for me. Last question I have for you, man, because I know we're finishing up here. I love what you said. You were talking about not just letting money sit around. Lazy money gets hungry and it gets eaten. That's what Grant Cardone always talks about, right? So, but let's talk about putting money into real estate. So, if you're putting money into real estate right now, a lot of people think real estate is going to bust. It's going to crumble. But then I don't really think that it can now that the banks have failed, because they're going to have to print more money in order to fix that problem, right? So like, wouldn't you have more hyper and accelerated inflation, and some of the cost of real estate's only going to go up again? Is that a good
real estate and rents
theory?
will continue to go up with inflation, right? I mean, it's going to go up, and people need a place to live. Now, it's become less affordable for most people to buy a 3-bedroom house with a white picket fence on a 1/4 acre, right? It's getting too expensive, right? And it's really hard for younger people even grown-up older people to afford that stuff, right? So where's the demand going to be? Well, it's probably quality, smaller living compartments, right? That's why you look at some of these multifamily units that are like, here, man, if you look at my window here, it's like these big apartments here. See that?
Yep.
So you see these apartments are not that big, actually. They're usually like 1, 2, 3 bedroom type of multifamily. They even you can buy small quadplex, those kind of things, People just want an affordable, nice place that's safe and secure for their families to live, that has some amenity, right? And those rents are going to continue to skyrocket through time. So how I started, and I know we're running a little bit out of time, but one of the things I did is I bought a duplex. It was the first thing I bought. And I rented out half for the same price that about where the mortgage would be, right? So the cool thing is it was there essentially rent free for me. So I was happy about that. And then I sold that and bought a quadplex and so forth. There's a book you want to read. It's called Cash Flow Forever. I can't remember who wrote it. It's called Cash Flow Forever. It's rated really good on like Audible, right, or Amazon Books. But Cash Flow Forever, it gives you all the math on how to process real estate deals. So it's not just pure hype. I know Grant and these guys, they go through it, but usually they go really fast on the chart, and you're just like, oh, I missed it. I hit rewind. This just gives you the printout and the sheets, the spreadsheets, so you can have it right there. And those are the same charts a lot of guys use. I use those, you know.
It makes sense. He's flying through it probably because he wants you to invest with him, right? He's got his Cardone Capital, and he's just like, hey, learn the game, multifamily, get into it. But I have an investment over here. You need to be in here. I get it. You know, I like Grant though.
He's smart.
Well, man, thanks for your time. Thanks for your time, Dan. Appreciate you, man. Hey, listen, if you guys got value out of the call today, I know each and every one of you guys did. First off, go follow Dan. Okay, Dan, where can they find you? Do you have a website? Do you obviously have Instagram? You got a lot of followers. So
just go to Dan's Millionaire Code on Instagram, Dan's Millionaire Code, and then there's links to everything in my profile.
Okay, perfect. So go there, guys. You can click on anything there and find everything Dan. You know, Dan is a great mentor, and he's constantly given literally free information. He goes live like all the time and talks about stuff like this. And so go on there and listen. Make sure you go up in the top right-hand corner and make sure you put there's a drop down that says when he goes live, you can make sure that it gives you a notification. Make sure you guys do that. And then if you guys got value, go ahead here, Journey to Win, comment, subscribe, leave a review, and, join the community. I have so many high level people that we're constantly bringing on here. And Dan, this will not be the last time I bring Dan on. I promise.
Thanks.
As long as he's willing to keep coming on, I'm going to keep bringing him on, man. So Dan, thank you for your time.
Thanks, man.